The Stoeger STR-9S Combat. Whoa, hey, stop. I know you're about to navigate away because you think it's just another Glock clone, and while it is a Glock clone, it's very different from the other Glock clones. So we're going to talk about the Stoeger STR-9S. It's a Glock clone. Are you ready? Stand by. Welcome back to the Humble Marksman channel. I'm David, and today we are talking about the Stoeger STR-9S Combat. Now, the Stoeger STR-9 was first put on my radar when Voda first hit social media with them about 1.5 to 2 years ago, and I thought, there's a new gun, and Voda's got one. But now it's been revised, and the STR-9S Combat has a lot of features for not a lot of money, and we'll get into that. Just as a thought experiment on why this is possibly the most exciting Glock clone that I've experienced so far, and we'll get into that more in a second, but imagine if you thought of all of the downsides of the blocky platform that is the Glock. The bad geometry from the grip angle to the trigger, which makes it hard to pull straight to the rear, the very blocky grip, the less than stellar ergonomics both at the grip tang and at the front of the grip on like the Gen 3 and Gen 4 models, the bargain bin plastic slot filler sights that they come with, and basically any of the things that you have to look past before you can embrace how great a Glock is. What if a Glock clone got rid of the one thing that was holding the Glock design back, but at the same time is going to piss you off? That's right, they use a proprietary magazine. And because they use a proprietary magazine with the Stoeger STR-9S, they're able to basically fix most of what's wrong with the Glock in its base form. So before we move on, yes, this gun was sent to me, but it's not perfect. I'm going to get into the negatives on it as well, but it is interesting because it took possibly one of the greatest things about the Glock, and that's cheap and widely available magazines, and it replaced it with these proprietary magazines, and honestly, it's improved it in the process. So if at any point you're enjoying yourself in the video, please remember to hit that like button, and if you want more of my content, head over to Patreon, where I've got 3 to 5 posts per week. But before we go a whole lot further, I need to talk to my YouTube manual reviewer. This gun, the Stoeger STR-9S Combat, is so new, it's not even on the Stoeger website yet. So you have to search for Stoeger STR-9S Combat press release, and then you will find a link through Google and see this picture of the gun, and it looks exactly like this picture of the gun. So why did deleting the Glock magazine from the Glock clone all of a sudden fix it? And guys, if you're not familiar with the channel, I've reviewed the Shadow Systems MR920, the Lone Wolf LTD9, the Glock Store GSX 100. All of those all share a similar feature, and that is that they are all built around the Glock magazine. So while the ergonomics can be improved on those guns, they're still pretty blocky. The textures may be enhanced a little bit, but they're still not exactly ergonomic. Because the magazines on the STR-9 are very narrow, they're able to build out the plastic and do a lot more with the frame, and the result is honestly something to behold. They have a super relief trigger guard, allowing the gun to sit very low in your hand and very comfortable grip on your knuckle. The front strap is graced with 3 gently sloping finger grooves, and I know what some of you are thinking, oh, that's terrible, finger grooves are awful. Not these finger grooves. These are just like the VP9 or like the PPQ. Super well done in the right spot and provide excellent purchase when you get a good squeeze on the gun. Moving around to the side, the guy who designed the gun fell asleep for a bit and it got a little bit slick, so there's not really much on the side panel. But then when you get around to the back strap, they have checkering on the back strap that is the most aggressive of any plastic gun that I have tried. It absolutely bites into your hand and doesn't let go. So the geometry of the front strap mated with this super aggressive checker pattern on the back create a frame that is super duper stable at speed and very easy to shoot accurately. Moving up the frame to the grip tang and how they have sculpted it, it's honestly very well done. It doesn't rub on the knuckle of your thumb, whether you choose a high grip or a folded thumb grip. Just with how that they have sculpted the plastic at the trigger housing, it seems to sit in hand a little bit better than the Glock offerings do. It's significantly more ergonomic. Before moving off the frame, you'll notice that there are 2 pins just like the old Glock Gen 3, Gen 4s, and a very familiar looking takedown tab, and you're thinking, well, where's the 3rd pin? It's supposed to be about right there. Well, it is right there. It's just behind the back straps. The magazine catch that they provide is not the standard Glock fare, although it looks very much like a Glock mag catch on the inside of the gun. And similarly, the slide release is not a typical Glock slide release, despite sitting in the frame very much like the Glock slide release does. It's flatter to the frame. It's larger. It feels like it's made of better metal. It doesn't have that little dam around around it that makes it a little bit weird. And that's going to bring us up to the slide. Now the slide and the barrel both sport a very well done nitride finish. It honestly looks and feels a lot like my M&P. So that's a pretty good finish that they've got there. The slide is topped out with a 3-dot fiber optic sight of co-witness sights. So the sights will co-witness with a Holosun, an RMR, probably a Vortex Venom. I don't have one to test. I did test a Delta Point Pro, but the Delta Point Pro is much too tall for the sights to be visible over the optic body. But the iron sights, as far as backup irons are concerned, I will say that they're way better than what most people are putting on them. But if this rear sight was just a blacked out rear, that would have been better. As it is, I shot this on kind of a cloudy day and the fiber pipes were a little bit overwhelming. It made it tough to target focus on the targets. But if the rear sight was just a blacked out rear with a fiber front, this would be a primo set of sights. The lines on the sights are machined very crisply, so they provide an excellent sight picture, and you will have to zero the sights. There is a fully adjustable rear sight. In my sight, I had to dial in about 3 inches right and 3 inches up. So if you don't know how to dial in an adjustable sight, you can check out my video on adjusting a red dot, and it's basically the same thing. But when I was zeroing the sights, I was rewarded with near cloverleaf style groups at 12 yards without having put any rounds through the gun, because it is that easy to shoot. The sight picture is pretty clean, and the ergonomics are so squared away that it makes it very easy to pull the trigger straight to the rear. And the trigger pull is honestly one of the more forgettable qualities about the gun, because it does everything else so well. It's kind of like a upper middle of the road Glock tuned type trigger. The trigger pull weight on my example came in at about 4 3/4 pounds, but it has a light take up to get to a firm-ish wall, and then it kind of rolls through the wall. It's not, kind of squishes through. It's creepy, but it's that predictable kind of creep that makes it kind of okay. It's not bad. The reset is very Glock-like, very short, and it is ready to go. The trigger blade safety is an interesting design. It goes all the way flush. It doesn't hit you in the center of the pad like the Glock trigger design does. It is a polymer trigger shoe, but it is a straight bladed trigger. It's very broad. It's very easy to get a hold of and pull straight to the rear. So a lot of people who didn't like the STR-9 original trigger will probably find something to like about this new trigger, because while it is a 4 3/4 pound trigger, it feels lighter than that just due to having a flat face trigger. Getting into the other premium features that come on the STR-9S Combat is the gun comes with an optics cut, and it is truly optic ready. It comes with all the hardware you would need to mount optics on your gun. It comes with an extra set of screws, and it comes with the plates. Now the plates that it comes with are the Glock MOS style of plate, where you thread the plate into the slide and then you thread the optic into the plate. Now I do have to dock Stoeger for their design of the optics mounting system, because it's honestly not that well done. They have a vertical rib that runs parallel with the slide, so it stops any movement kind of side to side in the wiggle, but there is nothing to stop the plate from moving with the direction of recoil. So that means that the plates are being held in by 2 tiny little screws. While that's not the end of the world, those screw heads, if you over torque them, will snap off and you'll have screws embedded in your slide. It happens on Glocks. It will happen on this more than likely. The alternative is like what CZ does with their optics cut, where it's basically a cross-shaped pattern so that the plate fits down on the cross very snugly and there's almost no play fore to aft or side to side, and then the screws just hold it into place. So if you don't have a torque wrench and you're wanting to install your own optics, you're gonna need to get one. I recommend the Wheeler Fat Wrench. There's a link to it down in the description. If you're playing the red dot game, you need to have a torque wrench, so please get a torque wrench so you don't have to pay a gunsmith to mount and unmount your red dots. The other thing that's wrong with the optic system is the screws that come on the optics plates are flathead screws. That's better than a hex head screw, I will say, but it is a little bit easy to strip because the screws are so shallow. So when you're getting on these screws to loosen them up, be sure that you have excellent engagement from your tool into the screw. Make sure you don't start to round off the edges of the slotted screw. An overlooked feature, but not by me and is appreciated, is a full-length stainless steel guide rod with a single recoil spring that is captured, so it conveys a sense of quality in a Glock clone and hangs with any of the name brand type stuff. Topping it all off with a threaded barrel that comes complete with the O-ring so that you don't lose your thread protector. I love it when companies include the O-ring with their thread protectors. because these things will go down range and you'll never see them again if you don't have an O-ring. So that's very kind of them to go ahead and do it correctly. Barrel, as I mentioned, is very, very well done. It is a super accurate pistol, easily as accurate as the Shadow Systems or a Gen 5 Glock with their Marksman barrel. I was very impressed with the practical accuracy of this gun. With almost no time behind it, I was printing small groups in no time with it. The one thing that I don't like about it, and they did it just because it seems like everybody does it, is we have a witness hole at the top of the hood that allows gas to exit the chamber and deposit soot and carbon onto the lens of your optic. Guys, we have to figure out a new way to let you have a witness hole into the chamber that doesn't smoke the lens of an optic. Finishing off the premium features for the gun is it does come with a magwell that is attached via one set screw at the back of the gun. The magwell does provide a much more generous opening. It's kind of got a weird anodization, almost maybe like a Parkerization on it. And that same aluminum material is used on the base pad. Now, hold on YouTube, don't demonetize me, bro. This is a factory mag that comes with the gun. The Stoeger STR-9 mags are a 15-round magazine tube. And then from the factory, they provide these base pads, and you need the base pad to interface with the magwell so that the magazines will fit in the gun. Because of the magwell, sometimes the original base pads won't allow the magazine to lock into the gun. So the magazines are functional. They do get 20+1 rounds, no problem. They are made in Italy, so it's probably a Mech-Gar magazine, which is fantastic. I'm a big fan of Mech-Gar magazines. The fact that these come with 3 magazines is a huge value add, and the reason it's a huge value add is because these magazines cost about $50 a piece if you can find them. I wanted to see and grab some of the regular STR-9 mags, and I couldn't find any on the internet to buy. Like, I was ready to buy some more magazines. Couldn't find them. I like this gun so much I want to take it to an IDPA match to compete with. However, I can't find any of the standard magazines, or any of these magazines for that matter, because they're just not available. They're supposed to sell for $50 a pop, but I can't find them. As far as outside the waistband holsters are concerned, I found 2 options, and one of them is the terrible Alien Gear outside the waistband holster, which that's just a hard no for me. And number 2 is the little cheesy holster that Stoeger sells themselves for the old STR-9. However, the sight channel is probably too short to accommodate the suppressor height sights, and it was sold out as well. Since the gun is so new, all the holster support I found for it was from companies that I honestly don't like their holster designs, Alien Gear being at kind of the top of that list. So when you put the whole package together and you get into the actual shooting experience, and you probably see all this and you're like, hey, that's a Wish.com version of Garand Thumb. And while you're not wrong, the reason I shoot like that in the videos is not the flex ammo or an outdoor gun club membership or anything like that. It's to see how the gun behaves under speed. Does it return to 0? How does it track when you're shooting fast and moving the gun very quickly target to target with just a flash sight picture? Because the sights are so squared away, it does actually quite well. The way the frame is set up provides a very neutral recoiling frame. It stays absolutely planted in your hand. I did shoot it with the large backstrap on it, but ultimately came back to the medium backstrap because I was pushing some of my shots to the left, and that usually means that I don't have enough trigger finger on the trigger and I'm pushing the muzzle. So back on the medium, all is well, although I can't get as much of my support hand onto the grip to assist in recoil management, but even still, the gun is absolutely brilliant. The slide cuts are super functional, make it very easy to manipulate. The etching on the slide is kind of weird, and you probably look at this and be like, wow, his slide has like a color fill. Like, no, I rubbed my finger across the engravings, and that's dead skin from my finger that lodged in there. So yeah, that's how I color filled the slide, was I ran my finger over it, and now the letters are white with my dead skin cells. Yeah. So I am very, very keen on this gun. I think it's a great gun. It's a great value gun. It would be a good gun at $100 more. This gun isn't necessarily forging any new paths because at its soul, it is a Glock. Ultimately, like, it's a Glock action for the most part, but they also just improved everything that's wrong with the Glock. It's like, what's wrong with the Glock? All right, let's just fix all of it and we'll sell it for less money than a Glock. Because the Stoeger STR-9S Combat is available right now at about $499. So for the same price as a Gen 3 Glock, you get a Glock made by somebody else with smaller magazines that provide better ergonomics, a better trigger, way better sights, optics capability, comes with 3 magazines, has a magwell. It's a better gun. And I honestly like it more than any of the other Glock clones that I've shot, because all Glock clones, regardless of price, because they're built around a standard Glock magazine, have the same blocky sort of feel in hand. The triggers can only be made sort of so good, and they all come with, honestly, a trigger maybe as good as this, maybe a little bit better, but it's ultimately kind of a Glock trigger. So this kind of embraces what a Glock is, but it refines it to the point of where, dare I say, it is perfected at this point. I would highly recommend this gun to people on a budget, and honestly, people just looking for like a home defense or even a concealed carry gun. Like, this gun does a lot of stuff right. So much so that the negatives, which are magazine unavailability, absolutely no holster support, kind of a dodgy optics system, cheap coating on the aluminum parts on the magazines and the magwell, no necessary grip texture on the side panels of the gun. But all of those negatives out there, like, the gun does everything so well, it's very, very easy to look past them and be happy. One day I'm going to find a holster for this gun, and I'm going to shoot it at the indoor IDPA match near my house. But until then, I would love to hear your thoughts. Would you buy a Turkish Glock clone that fixes basically everything that's wrong with a Glock for less money than a Glock? That's kind of the question that's at play here. So sound off in the comments and let me know what your thoughts on the STR-9S Combat are. So if you've made it this far, why don't you watch this video on how to not shoot Glocks left, because you know you shoot the gun left and you think it's the sights. And YouTube thinks you'll enjoy this video, but as always, I appreciate you guys, and I will catch you on the next one. Take care, guys.